Hello, welcome to my second video report for our digital media and public responsibility course. For this video, I want to compare two places that I've lived in, which is New York City and New Zealand, North Island of New Zealand, and how they've taken the steps into dealing with the COVID pandemic, what procedures they went through, and yeah, just basically that's what it was. And I guess I'll start with New Zealand. I stayed in New Zealand for 5 months, and during those 5 months there was a lot of things I went through. Straight off the bat, when I got to the airport in Auckland, New Zealand, we were given a sheet that was explaining the rules of the required quarantine that we had to do, and I did it at my parents' house while I was living. I did it at my parents' house, and I was staying in a tent. They had set up one out on the front yard, and the things that we were required to do, obviously, was just to stay within their isolated place for the 14 days, and no leaving or leaving that area within that 14 days either. And yeah, that was that. And comparing that to how it was over here, when I got to the airport at JFK, I didn't get a sheet because I had to fill out a form online, which is pretty much the same. Fill out a form online telling them where I would be staying, and I stayed at a hotel, and from which date to the end date I would be doing the 14 days. And they were both pretty much the same. I knew the rules already. I stayed within my isolated area for those 14 days, and it was good. I think there wasn't any difference between that. I guess it is different because from March to August, people around the world had already, I guess, adjusted to dealing with COVID anyway. So I guess that's the only difference between the two. That's that. And the next thing would be during the lockdowns. I can't really compare it to how it was over here because I wasn't here at the time, but I can because I've seen a lot of videos and how I wouldn't say New Yorkers because there were people from other places in America. So I guess that won't work, but I guess I can try to compare it. In New Zealand, people were really lenient and following the rules about the lockdown, making sure that only essential people within families would go to supermarkets to buy the essential stuff, like necessary stuff, or caretakers would buy things for their grandparents or people who are unable to go get things for themselves. And yeah, and from videos online and social media, there are a lot of how might I say it, people who couldn't just accept the fact that you can only buy this. This amount of people are allowed inside a supermarket. You must wear a mask. You must stay 6 feet apart. And I was really shocked at the videos because people would bring up the law of it's my body, it's my body, my choice. I was confused by that, but it's true. That is true, but it was a protocol of the place, and I don't understand how they could follow that and not. They can't follow that, but they can follow another one about having freedom of speech or my body, my choice. So that part I was confused about. In New Zealand, a lot of people were they were chilled with just following what's needed, what was said. Like mask all the time whenever going into a place, going into a supermarket. What else? 6 feet apart. Lines were going all the way down the road, and everybody was good with that. And the only times I would see people, the only things I ever heard were about people not following the rules was when people were coming from overseas, and I was like, oh well, I guess that's, we can't stop people who come overseas if yeah, that's that. But as of now, the comparisons between the two places or the differences, New Zealand is basically back to normal. Still making sure that people if they're sick, obviously they would stay home, and people would be careful about not having too many people at an event or stuff like that. And in New York, there's just still a lot of confusion for me because people can't just not wear masks. People just won't wear masks. People, just, I don't know. I just don't understand. I hopefully someone who asks me a question can tell me if I'm wrong, because I probably am. And you can ask me questions and I'll try and answer them as well as I can from my own experience and from what I've seen. And yes, and that's that, I guess. But moving forward, for my third and final video reports, I want to talk about how New Zealand used social media to combat or to deal social media to spread the word across to New Zealanders and dealing with dealing with COVID. And yeah, thank you for listening, and